Right, welcome back to the podcast. Today I've got the man, the myth, the legend, Adam Pritchard, which I'm sure everyone would have seen on the Physique page. If you've not, then you obviously just not been following us proper. But today I wanted to just sort of talk to you about your story, mate, because I feel like from the first podcast that I did with Harry, from the feedback that I got from clients and coaches even for me, there was a lot of stuff that I didn't even know about Harry's story, or just about the brand and the business in general. So I feel like this is a really good opportunity just to learn more about what makes you tick, about what's deeper with you. So first and foremost, mate, transformation. You went from client to coach for the brand. I just wanted to start off really about like your journey into Physique Academy, not even just as a coach, but like take me all the way back to how you knew about George, what then led to you signing up as a client, working with George, and then just sort of your journey, mate, with starting out as a client in the brand.
Yeah, so it was back in July 2020, but before then, I'd sort of tried like yo-yo diets, fad diets, these special coffees that would literally make you shit yourself, like, full on laxatives. Just never really, had like a really good go and just sort of give up at a certain point. And then it was when obviously the lockdown started. I had a friend called Levi at the time, and he'd just done like a bit of a lockdown challenge with George, and I'd seen his results. He looked well, so I reached out to Levi. I was like, "Who's George? Like, what's it all about?" Because I think at the time as well, the page only had about 1,000 followers.
Yeah.
Whereas now we're on like 100k.
Literally just pushing on 100k. Yeah.
So yeah, I reached out to George. We jumped on a consultation call, and I was shitting myself, bro. Like, just because obviously in good shape and stuff like that, and I was 100 kilos at the time. So had a consultation call, told him, what I wanted to do, and why I wanted to do it as well. And then just from that moment on, I just knew that he believed in me. So did the call, got all set up, and when I started, I obviously just started it just to get healthier and just sort of look better. But then as I went through, I just started to get like a real passion for like training, seeing that progression, seeing my body change, learning more about the body and how you can obviously manipulate it to obviously change as well. Yeah, and then just that whole process was, it was hard, but it was probably one of the best things that I'd ever done.
And do you think, like, from your first interaction with George, like having that initial fear, do you think that's quite a common thing that you experience with guys, when you're getting guys coming onto the program now? Like, what sort of shifted your mindset from like fear to like reassurance that this might work for you when you're first starting out?
I think, yeah, your first question there in terms of is it common? Yeah, 100%. I feel like, because obviously we do get a lot of consultation calls. Some people turn up, some people don't. And the ones that do, you can always tell at the very start they're very within themselves, because you are in a vulnerable position, telling someone you need help and you're out of shape and you're not right, etc. So it can be a difficult position to be in, especially, because I have calls of a lot of bigger guys. And when they come on to the call with me, they always tell me every single time they feel a bit reassured that they're on the call with me, because they've seen that I've been the big guy so I can get on their level. But for me, when I was speaking to George, of course, and I remember it well, I was on my lunch break at work at the time, working as an accountant, and just with the way he was speaking to me, it was very reassuring, very compassionate, very understanding. Just told me, reassured me that he's going to build me up, and it's not going to be all guns blazing. So yeah, and I feel like that's what it is with clients as well. Is at the start, they feel very vulnerable and insecure, but them consultation calls, and that's why we do them on Zoom as well. That face-to-face interaction.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that makes them feel more comfortable, because you can show your energy and your enthusiasm rather than just messaging someone or
I think as well when the brand first started, it wasn't even, and right at the very beginning, it wasn't even Zoom calls. It was more like WhatsApp calls. And I think the implementation of that, it just adds a lot of value, because if you can't put a face to the name, then it's like, how are you going to build a proper relationship with that person? And that's why we like in the program as well, we'll do like the calls every 6 weeks as well, isn't it? But how much weight is it in total for your first phase one? How much weight with George was it you lost in total?
So in 10 months, I went from 99 kilos to 56. 56.
And if we've got the photos, we can put them up on screen for that first transformation. Obviously, now you've filled out a lot more, haven't you? But what was your relationship like before joining the program with fitness? Because for guys that are a lot more like overweight, that have got a lot to shed, it's gonna take a lot more sacrifice to reverse those like bad habits, isn't it? So what was your relationship like with food and with training prior to joining the program? And was it like quite a big shift at the beginning, or was it more like a gradual and sustainable process for you?
Yeah, I think, well, I've come from like a very sporty background. Like when I was a teenager, like my dad, even when I was like 6 and 7, from that age onwards, my dad always made sure I was doing some form of sport. So I played football, I boxed, played cricket, played rugby, did like a bit of athletics at school, only the shot put because I had a decent throw. So
Strength.
yeah, so I've always been in like an athletic background, but as obviously time went on, what happened is I got into like I got into a relationship in my late teens, and you get comfortable, you start to have takeaways, you start to miss training because you want to spend time with them. So that back end of say my teens was when I really gained all the weight. I mean, I've always been a bit of a bigger kid, but that sort of say 18 to 21 was probably the worst point where I just gained probably like say 3 stone.
And was that like, sorry, for like takeaways, was that like a weekend thing? Or was that like every other night, like you just couldn't be asked cooking?
Yeah, it would be, cheap takeaways. Like I remember there was a place called Freddy's, which was like a fried chicken place. You'd get a meal for $5. Do you know what I mean? And it'd just be stuff like that, lay in bed watching a film with them, straight after work or college or whatever it was at the time. And yeah, my relationship with food was, I'd say it was bad, because I looked to food for comfort in a lot of ways, like just because of how I felt about myself. And then with training, again, throughout that sort of period, from say 18 up until the point I joined Physique in 2020, it was very sporadic. I'd play 7-a-side here and there. I'd maybe go to the gym here and there with my mates after work, but it was nothing consistent.
No structure.
No.
Was there like a specific moment that you can think back to that makes you think, I need to change something here?
Yeah, I remember I've said this too, because I get, again, question of a lot of clients, like, what was your turning point? And in my bathroom at home, there's like a big mirror that goes across the full bathroom. And I just remember one evening I was like just brushing my teeth, and I just looked at myself, and I just burst out crying. I just thought, I need to do something here, because this isn't right. Like, this isn't who I want to be. This isn't how I want to be. And I just essentially thought, right, that's it. And then I did. Before reaching out to Levi, I had a couple of messages with a couple of other coaches, but I just didn't feel right like with them. And then, like I say, when I went with George, there was just something there that thought, right, this is it.
And do you think, with your self-confidence at that time, because your whys and like your inspirations, goals, they change obviously throughout. Like your goals now obviously are way different to what they were then. But what was like your biggest reason for importance, or your biggest why at that time to wanting to change? Was it more like mentally for like your general body confidence or like insecurities, or was it for like health, well-being?
Yeah, it was more because it was just more of how I felt about myself, looking at myself. I was always wearing like very baggy jumpers. When I'd sit on the couch, I'd be like putting a pillow over me, and just saying it was for comfort, when in reality it was just,
I
realised you was hiding yourself, and obviously general health as well. You obviously don't want to, develop like say type 2 diabetes, etc., which I've known to happen to a few people in my family. So again, that's obviously that was in the back of my mind as well. But it was definitely from like a confidence point of view, because when you was younger, again, I wasn't bullied or anything, but you'd have people making comments and stuff like that. So they obviously always stick with you. So it's like, right, well, they must be right. You wouldn't be saying it otherwise. So that's why I made the change.
There is also the flip side of that though, because once you do get in shape, as people then will start having the comments of, oh, you've taken it too far.
Oh, yeah.
You've lost too much weight. I was like the opposite of what you like started out from. I was always the skinny kid. So for me, it was like a graft. I was more like a hard gainer, just to put on weight. And for me, like I would like initially, first few years, teen years, I was like, right, I'm just gonna smash my chest, do like chest 3-4 times a week, arms, shoulders, back, no legs. So like, and I'm still trying to work on my legs now, bro. but then like when I first started as a PT when I was 18, like people say, "Oh, you're in good shape," but then they'll be like, "Oh, when are you gonna train your legs?" It's like, bro, like people will always take just
they'll always have something to
they'll
say.
always have something
Always have
negative
something
to say. And I know from some of the personal conversations that we've had, you know, when we've been out for meals or whatever, nights out or whatever, you've spoken a little bit about, you know, the relationship with your ex. You know, you're with her, say, from 18, did you say?
No, that was a different one.
That was different.
Yeah, so this girl, I think I was with her from like 22, you know, just before I turned 22 up until the point, I think it was, what year would it have been? It would have been like 2021, I split up with her in like the April or something like that it was, I can't remember exactly. But I was with her for just under 3 years. And yes, that when I got with her, I was obviously on the bigger side. She was someone who could just eat what she wanted and just not gain weight at all. She had, you know, she was a good looking girl, never take that away from her. You know, and what happened there is, you know, at the start, people are always very supportive. And then, you know, they start to see you getting really zoned in. And, you know, if I was at hers, in the morning, I'd get up a bit earlier than her, go for a 5 to 10K run while she's still asleep. That was an issue. It's like, well, you're still asleep, so what's the issue? You know, if I was going to hers for tea, like, you know, might just say, oh, I don't want that, I'll have that instead. You know, again, or I'd make my own. Again, not an issue. I'm not telling you to do it. So yeah, it was, you know, it was like the back end of everything that got really, really toxic. You know, where she would be like taunting me with food. You know, like putting food in front of me in front of her family, saying, "Why don't you eat like this? You know, why are you being different? Why are you ruining it?" All that sort of stuff, and saying stuff like, "I don't like skinny boys. You've changed, not the person I love." Even one moment, I don't mind sharing it. So one night I was laying in bed, and she just randomly turned brown, bro, and went, "Do you know what?" I went, "What?" She went, "If I seen you in the street now, I won't think, oh, he's all right." And I was like, "All right, okay."
Well, that's got to like from someone that at the time is the closest person to you. That's got to be like a fucking dagger
Yeah,
in
of
your
course
heart,
it is.
mate.
Yeah, of course it is. But then, you know, and there was a lot of conversations with George around that, and I'll be honest, he helped me through a lot of it. You know, even to the point because obviously Physique used to coach women as well, and she ended up joining, and she lasted like a week and a half, bro.
Couldn't hack it.
Because she couldn't hack it, like, and I felt embarrassed at that point that I'd, you know, sort of pissed George off.
Yeah, referred her on.
Referred
Just
her
for
on,
him
she's
to
best
put
at
that, for him to put that energy and time
that's
into
it,
her,
yeah,
and then just for her
that's
to
it.
be.
But he was always telling me, bro, she's not right, you know, you're better than her, and I mean, because obviously, like, again, like, I've even told you sort of like this as well, some days I will still think of myself as that big kid, do you know what I mean, in certain social situations and stuff like that, I'll hold myself back or feel vulnerable, even though I'm nowhere near that person, I'll still feel like that, so at the time, you know, you're with that person, so I feel like I'd probably stayed with her a bit too long, do you know what I mean? And what hurt me the most out of all that is, again, I'm not going to go into detail out of respect, but at this, like, towards like the middle of the relationship, she like suffered with like some mental health stuff, and some of that I had to keep to myself for quite a bit of time. Like, couldn't even speak to her parents about it, and you know, took her to like therapy every single week and stuff like that. Took time off work, and then for me to then you know, when she got better, I thought, right, this is my time to, you know, better myself. I thought, you know, she couldn't even support me in it, so yeah, that's essentially that. But then there was like, you know, my mum, she used to like, because my mum does suffer with a bit of mental health as well. She worries with anxiety and stuff. And she would like text my mum saying she's worried about me, I'm not eating, and he's this and that, and he's looking ill. And then my mum would start worrying and having
Well, it's
conversations.
putting that seed
That's
into your
it.
family's brain
Yeah,
then, and sort of
that's it.
like it's just basically shifting the narrative to what she wants.
That's it. And obviously, like, because obviously we do like measurements and stuff like that. So my mum used to like do certain ones for me in the morning, like back then. And I always remember it once. She was, I can't remember which one she was doing, but she just started crying in front of me. Do you know what I mean? She's like, I can't take this anymore. Like, you know, you don't look right. I'm like, well, and obviously that gets to you. You start thinking, well, is it time to stop? You know, and then I mentioned it to George. He's like, bro, come on, like, we're so close, and this, and that. And yeah, I'm obviously glad that I didn't listen to any of these people, you know, and I've trusted George's word, you know, because obviously I wouldn't be pretty much here today.
And trusted the process more than
That's
anything, haven't you? And how would you say you dealt with it in those sort of moments of self-doubt, was it going back to George and speaking to George and getting him to sort of reassure you, or were you more like a closed book more maybe towards the beginning of that, when that started to arise?
I think at the beginning I didn't really talk about it much, but then when it really started to affect me, that's when I reached out to George, and I was like, this is being said, this is happening, and we had endless phone calls, messages, voice messages. That was my coping mechanism, because I felt like he was the only one at the time who believed in me, because I was starting to lose, belief in myself.
Yeah, and if there's one sort of like going back to those early days, if there's someone in that current situation that you find yourself in, if they've got like a mum, dad, partner that just starts saying, you're taking this too far, you've lost too much weight, you're losing muscle, I wouldn't look at you twice on the street, all those sort of negative comments, what's the main piece of advice that you'd give to someone in that situation at the time?
I think you probably come across this as well with your clients, where they've had comments, you're looking ill, you're looking gaunt, you're looking this, it starts to sacrifice relationships. And the biggest piece of advice I would say is, one, speak to your coach. Because at the end of the day, no matter whether you're in shape, out of shape, whether you're Chris Bumstead, someone will always say, show off, you're this, you're that. They'll say something. You think you're this, you think you're that. So always, speak to your coach firstly, but then believe in yourself, trust the process. Yes. And I think what it is as well is, with me as well, in sort of my situation, it was such a big change that people wasn't used to it. Do you know what I mean? And I think because a lot of it happened over COVID, I didn't see people for a very long time, some of them, and they're like, oh God, you changed, you all right, you better.
Happens with a lot of that with clients as well, like maybe for people that work with people like overseas and stuff, and they don't see them for like 6 months, and then they've had like a crazy transformation. They'll see them like, oh fucking hell, like you've lost loads of weight. But then like people disguise it well. They put it across like they're being quite empathizing and they've got your best interest at heart. But realistically, I always say this to the guys that I work with, it most likely does come from a place of like envioucy and jealousy, because like they might have tried that before and they've not been able to do it, so they'd rather put someone else down that is actually succeeding at what it is they probably wanted to do as well. But do you think like the lack of maybe support strengthened your determination in the end?
Yeah, 100%. It sort of makes you realise as well that other people's opinions don't actually matter. Because is what you're doing affecting them? No. Is you doing this and eating a certain way, weighing your food, you're not asking them to do it. And again, I had a phone call a few weeks back with a client, and really good transformation. A guy called Dan, and he had like this one guy. It was at like a family function or something like that, and he got absolutely shredded. Looked insane. This one guy started making comments, and I said, Kanesh, I said, what does this guy look like? He went, he's fat and he's a pisshead. I said, well, there it is. I said, he's not happy with himself, so he's going to try and bring you down to make himself
to his level.
That's it. So it's always going to be the case that people are always going to have something to say.
Yeah, definitely. And you see it all over. Even that's why like having like some form of fame, or like being like an influencer in today's society, you've got to have such thick skin, because like even like we see it on the main page, on the Physique Academy page, on our own Physique Academy pages, like someone will achieve a great transformation, then there's always those fucking internet trolls, bro. Oh, you look better before.
Photoshop.
Yeah.
Good ab genetics. Well, not that it's worked hard. You just got good ab genetics.
It's honestly, bro. Like when I've like started just answering back to stuff like that now, just because it riles me up so much. Because again, like they'll see that they're like fulfilled and satisfied with the results that they've achieved, the transformation that they've achieved, and they're like feeling gassed about it. Just for then, like especially the more viral it goes as well, the more of that you're going to have. And then again, it like people get themselves into like a negative mental spiral. One of the main situations or examples of that I've had was with an American client. It was actually one of my first transformations, Hunter, and I was like exposed to it like right at the very start. It was a guy that he can't remember the name of the syndrome, but it's basically where he's got like no left pectoral muscle. And
I remember this one.
Yeah, and people like there was so many comments like, bro skips chest day, and like he needs to work on his chest, and
That's it. And you think about the client looking at that.
I know, and it literally says it in the description exactly what he has, and he's not allowed that to sort of deter him from reaching his goals, but then people still have the audacity.
Yeah, they're just keyboard warriors, aren't they? They've got nothing better to do.
Yeah, yeah. But let's talk a little bit about, mate, your like transition now from client to coach, because obviously, you know, you achieved an insane transformation. Like, I remember like even on like nights out and stuff, if you've been out in Manchester, you'll even just get like people coming up to you just saying, and like, yo, you're the guy that lost all that weight, aren't you? I bet that's quite a good feeling, to be
Yeah,
fair.
it happens quite a lot. And Tyler's been there several times. A couple of mates have been there. It's happened in Dubai, Ibiza when we've been there as well. I remember the very first time it happened, and shock, it was in Albert Schloss in Manchester. I was just near the bar and I was just seeing a guy staring at me, so I'm thinking, is he going to kick off with me or something? You know, have I done something like? You know what I mean? So he just comes and he's like, I know you. I'm like, do you? Like, because I'd never seen this guy in my life. And he goes, yeah, Physique Academy, you know, you're a coach now, you've done transformation. I was like, oh, yeah, sound. And you feel a bit weird at first, but then the more it happens, like, I appreciate it. I'll buy them a drink, I'll have a conversation, talk about them, you know, do they need any help? And, you know, we've had consultations when we've been out.
Yeah, literally, yeah. Stood on the street for like half an hour, like, tell me about your fitness goals,
Yeah,
mate.
having consultations. So, yeah, it does happen quite often. Happened, you know, when I went to Dubai with Tyler. You know, and, you know, it's a good thing, you know, and that's one thing, like, some people will see that and they'll get like a bit big-headed and stuff. But the thing is, I've always said I'll always be level-headed. I'll always be me. You know, because just because I've changed doesn't change who I am. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, my mentality is better, my physicality is better. But in terms of who I am as an individual, you know, that's not going to change me in the slightest.
Like I say, you trusted the process. You know, you might have got like down to like that extreme level after your first phase one, but you've done numerous reverse diets and deficits after that now, to the point where, would you say now you're pretty satisfied, pretty happy with where you're at?
No.
No, never satisfied.
No, I mean, obviously, of course, I appreciate and I'm happy with how far I've come. But I feel like, you know, that sort of, when you start to become happy, you start to become complacent. You know, there's always something to improve on. There's always something to work on. There's always an avenue you can go down to get better. And, you know, with me, my long-term goal will hopefully, in say, like early 2026, maybe a bit later, is to obviously to compete. So in terms of that, I need to develop my physique more. I've just come off the back of like a bit of a recovery phase, which, you know, we'll touch on shortly. And, you know, just started a deficit back last Friday. So now obviously the goal is to get as lean as possible, reverse out of that again, and then work on some weaker areas. And then hopefully, you know, at the start of next year, mid next year, is when I want to compete.
Right, and like you've got to have like serious dedication, haven't you, if you're going into bodybuilding comp. Your previous coach, wasn't he like a bodybuilding trainer?
Yeah.
Yeah. How was it working with him? Did you find it different from like the Physique Academy mentality to working with a traditional bodybuilding
Yeah,
style
because
coach?
I worked with George up until it was basically just before we went to. Did you come to the first Ibiza trip? No, 2022. No, so it was basically up until that point, and then I self-coached a little bit, and then a little bit later in the year there was a lad I know called James, who's a bodybuilder and he's a coach, and he, you know, reached out to me at the point. He said, "How's your training going?" Because I'd always chat to him about cars, training, and all that sort of stuff. I said, "You messaged me at the right time. I'm actually looking for a coach." So yeah, I mean, in terms of the way a bodybuilding coach will coach, it's totally different. Because to coach a bodybuilder, it's easy. Like,
Yeah, because if you've got to have like a good amount of experience behind you a lot of the time already if you're going down that avenue.
yeah, because you'll tell a bodybuilder to do something, they'll just
do it.
Yeah, whereas a lifestyle person who has a general 9 to 5 or something like that, or isn't interested in bodybuilding, doesn't have that bodybuilding mindset of, you know, being disciplined and same meal at the same time every single day, it's totally different, you know. So working with him was obviously a little bit different. The check-in process was a little bit different as well. Did a photo shoot in the 2023 in 2023 in the July.
That was with Tyler, right?
Yeah. Tyler was with the same coach as well at the time. And so yeah, the process was a little bit different. Probably not as much communication, I would say, in terms of like us, like we're checking up on clients and stuff like that.
I think again though, the more lifestyle clients, they need that, don't they?
Yeah, of
that
course
accountability.
Of course they do, because obviously there's different variables that are going to come up in their life, and, you know, we're dealing with 20 different types of people across our client base. Do you know what I mean? In terms of different personalities, whereas a bodybuilder is a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and so sort of going back a little bit, bro, because sort of like around coaching, like obviously you're coaching for Physique now. We did sort of go off a little bit on a tangent, but from going from like being a client to a coach, what was like the moment you realised you wanted to do that? And you have sort of talked to me a little bit about this before, or the story behind it of like when you met up with George and how that sort of came about. But for the people that don't know, what sort of made you get into that and made you realise it was a passion for you to want to help other people? Was it like your own experience and trying to be like a beacon of inspiration for the guys that might have been in the same situation? Because it's quite rare, isn't it, to go from where you were at to losing all that weight, and it will be inspirational for a lot of people. So would you say that is like a big reason for why you wanted to get into coaching?
Yeah, 100%. And how it came about was in 2021 I won Client of the Year. So George took me to be Stecker. We got some steak, had a good chat, and around that time, like late that year, I was obviously getting lots of messages from people about how did I do it, kind of help them, and referred quite a few of them onto Physique.
At this time, sorry, was it just George as well that was the only coach, or was Jamie involved and Harry at this point?
I think Harry might have started then.
And it was Jamie first.
Yeah,
Jamie first, then Harry.
Was it Jamie first? Oh yeah. So Jamie was on before that actually. Sorry, because Jamie was there because I actually did like a bit of an interview with George at his house, and Jamie was there, and then I think it was Harry, and then was it Reece, then Neil, and then me.
Yeah, and then Tyler, and then me. I think no, then Chris. I can't remember. I can't remember.
So just going back, I started to help people a bit on the side, like not really charging them much. Just to sort of get a bit of experience doing it, because again, like I said, I developed like a real passion for like learning and helping. So then when we was having that conversation, when we was at Visteca, he asked me how it was going. So I showing him a couple of results. He's like, oh sweet, you really into it, you serious about it? So I was like, yeah. And he just sort of, at the time I thought he was joking, he made a comment, oh, you never know, you might work for me one day. And I just went, I'd love to. He's like, yeah. So I was like, yeah. So then I dropped him off at home, and he's like, right, well, this is the process, this is what I want you to do. And then once you've done that, we get you on board and we get you up and running. And that was in the December. I came on in the February. And then, yeah, like the reason I do it and the reason that I still do it and I still love it every day is exactly what you said. Like, I feel like it's my way of giving back. And because I've been on the other side of that call, for example, or the other side of that check-in, I know what it's like. I know how much this process can change your life as well. So when I'm doing that for other people, and they're also taking inspiration from my journey, and I say to every single client, like, you guys are all part of my journey as well, because this, in terms of working Physique, is still part of the journey. Do you know what I mean? So that's probably the main reason why I do it. And I also just love interacting with people. I love training. It's what I do pretty much every single day. So I'd say that's like the main reason.
You live it day in, day out, don't you?
Yeah.
And you'll know exactly what people will be thinking on certain feedback, because if you've got to keep someone more accountable, if they are taking the piss a little bit and you have to sort of put a foot down, you'll know exactly what they'll be thinking getting that feedback, because you've obviously would have had that with George as well. If maybe like you might have started to veer off in a particular direction. But I know, I remember George saying that you were super, maybe not the whole way through, but like especially at some points, like around Christmas, even on Christmas Day, you were like fucking like following your normal meal plan when everyone else were like fucking like mince pies and stuff.
I'm a lot more relaxed now, and it did get to a point where it was a bit too much, and
maybe a bit obsessive, not having like that balance. Obviously you've got to make sacrifices, but you've still got to have some form of balance, haven't you? Otherwise
but just throughout that whole cut process, I would say I was relentless. Like, he would tell me to go and do a half marathon tomorrow, and I'd go and do it.
And now that's right. You don't do any running now, do you?
I don't do any running now, no, because of my knee. So I'd go into that, and and there was obviously times where I wanted to eat certain things, but my head was like, no. And then that first Christmas, I remember it, I'd had turkey, veg, and I think it was just like turkey and veg I had, no gravy, no potatoes, no nothing.
Have you ever had any clients that have had the same sort of approach with birthdays, socials, Christmas? Have you?
Yeah, and you know what, like, everyone will back them up now, like, and I always say, don't be like me. I don't need to make the same mistakes as me. I've learned from it. It took me quite a while because even around, like, say, because I remember one time I went to like a big lodge cabin for my dad's birthday, and everyone's having like, a couple of drinks in the hot tub again, which isn't the end of the world. They was having something different to eat. I'm there weighing out my food, drinking water, going to bed early so I can go to gym the next day. That's an hour's drive from the log cabin. But you need to learn to relax a little bit. That one little drink, that one little day off isn't going to kill you. So when it comes to socials now, obviously we put things into perspective for clients in terms of how to navigate it. What I do, and I know that you do, and several of the coaches do, is maybe look at the menu together, get something that's going to be enjoyable, isn't going to go too far over, so it's obviously going to be controlled. So we try to teach the clients about balance, and George was trying to do that with me. He's like, bro, you need to relax. Like, he's having that, it's fine. I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's fine. I don't want it. I wanted it, but in my head, I'm like, if I have that, then that's not right. And then it took me a bit. It took like a bit of pushing and stuff. Like one of my mates, Anish, he helped me through it a lot as well. Just sort of maybe going to the pub to watch the football, then maybe having a little drink. Then you just learn that it's all right. You can still make progress. As long as you're consistent. That's it.
I think everyone has that, goes through that phase of once you start to see results, you're like, right, I'm going to put all my eggs in this basket. Like when I was doing like a reverse diet, I was only like 17. I actually put a photo on like when I put the sticker in. Yeah, I guess my age. Yeah, Jamie said like a 30-year-old man, the 17-year-old. But at the time, like I was eating close to like 4,000 calories and. Even like I've never had like a huge appetite for food, and I'd be up till like 1 a.m. like sacrificing sleep, recovery time just to get that amount of food in. And then looking back now, I'm like, that wasn't right. But at the time, you've just got that sort of, you just don't think about it like that. You've got that mindset, that mentality of like, this is what I need to be doing. Yeah. This is how I'm going to progress. Otherwise, I'm not going to see any results. And it's just like. It can get super obsessive, but I think, a lot of the time you have to go through that to find your own balance because everyone has their own way of balancing things, don't they? That's why like with our coaching, it's on a person by person basis. It's like not like a one size.
Because it can go that way as well, where when you become too obsessive, and it was getting like this with me, where it's starting to become a bit of like a disorder in a way, where I was getting scared to even eat at some point. Do you know what I mean?
This when you were cutting,
obviously. Yeah. Towards the end, you was getting scared, and then when I got into the reverse phase, I was panicking about putting on weight, and I was messaging George, I've gone up 0.8 this week. Is that all right? He's like, yeah, bro, we're in a reverse diet. We're going to see that the first couple of weeks. Relax. You're not going to get fat. I'll make sure. And it's hard to adapt that mindset because it was so big, and I'd worked so hard, losing like 43 kg at the time. When you start to see it go the other way, you just have this like panic mode. And I know that some clients have that as well. I've had several conversations with clients. I'm like, you may experience a bit of fluctuation at first, then it'll level itself out, and then we'll taper up. And again, I've learned that from myself. And I feel like if you don't find that balance and you're just so restrictive all the time, and it's we can even go delve into like these sort of like keto and all that sort of stuff. When you restrict yourself so much, you're just gonna rebel. And the way I've always explained it to clients is about being super restrictive. If you've got a child and you're really strict, really this, they're going to rebel. Do you know what I mean? They're going to push against you, they're going to fight against you, and they're going to turn into whatever. So it's the same with like nutrition and stuff like that. You're just going to get to a point where you think, sack this. Go on a massive binge, potentially have an eating disorder the other way where you can't control it. Gain loads of water weight, then you feel even worse, so you carry on eating. So that's why I just love to teach the clients about balance.
Yeah, I think with like coach training, which we have each week, this was something that we heavily focused on at one point as well, because I think coming new into Physique Academy, into the business, you sort of like, you see everything more black and white, don't you? I think everyone does really. Like initially, you might be a little like, this is your diet plan, these are your alternatives. You can't go much outside of that. But now, like, as long as I'm like, right, if you're hitting your calories, hitting your protein, then, you have got a little bit more flexibility to let your carbs and fats take care of themselves. Like, if you just have, like, a few things to focus on rather than be, like, absolutely pinpoint, you have to hit everything super strict, then it's not really teaching the right elements of what's going to make someone's, like, transformation successful or fitness journey successful in the long term, isn't it?
It's about balance. It's about lifestyle. Calories, macros, of course, are important to some degree. But your caloric intake, your protein intake is probably the most important thing. So, when it comes to, like the consistency, again, it's just about balance, essentially.
And as a coach now, how do you approach getting results for clients initially? Like, is it when you have like someone come through the door, is the main thing like that you want to focus on? Because your niche as well, like, again, going back to those guys that have got themselves in a bit of a bad rut, more bad habits that might be seen as more like irreversible. So what's the first thing for like your niche of guys that you work with that you would focus on? Is it general daily activity, diet, then start to implement some form of training, you know, if they are a little bit more inexperienced?
Yeah, it's always going to be the nutrition to start with. You know, you nail the nutrition, you've nailed the hardest part, because that's everybody's weakness, mate. You know, and everyone I say you can't out-train a diet.
No.
You can't. So nailing nutrition, getting them comfortable, eating whole foods in a good routine, getting a decent amount of steps in per day, nothing exogenous, so just around, say, 8K potentially. You know, a bit more movement, you know, maybe 3 resistance sessions, again, all dependent on their experience, the time availability, you know, everything like that. And then we can obviously then start to taper up the output as time goes on, as and when needed. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's always going to be the basics with these guys, because if you throw the bus at them, right, you need this, you need that, you need that, they're going to be very overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And for someone who already doesn't have confidence, they're going to be like, I can't do all that.
Yeah, and it is an overwhelming process in the first few weeks, like, because even just starting out, you've got the onboarding, then you've got to start thinking about logging your weight, and then if you have got any, like, potentially any resistance training sessions, logging your loads, and like I say, if there's too much at once, it's so overwhelming, and people think that is like the norm. Like, so it's like, if like, because a lot of time on consultation calls, guys will come on, and because they're motivated, they're fired up, they're ready to go, they'll be like, I can train 5 days a week. Yeah. But then when you actually look at the time management, what days you're working, what days you're walking the dog, what days you're eating, what time is family time, then it's like, I'd probably say that you can't do that, bro. Yeah. Like, just being honest, you can't do that. Like, maybe it's more like 2 or 3 days that are going to be more realistic, but because if say like we started them out at like 5-6 days, and then within the first 2 weeks they're already starting to miss sessions, then they're just going to think, oh, right, can't do it, it's not for me, yeah, I'm going to throw in the towel, and then it's like, and then it's harder to actually claw your way back to starting out more simplistic, because they've already had that initial expectation. Then it's like, I'm already being drawn back, I'm a failure, I'm this and that, and it's all psychological, isn't it, bro? So it's so difficult.
And that's it. It's about that, you know, that sort of tailored approach, you know, like we do with everyone, from the nutrition to the training to even how we talk to them and approach them. Because I could have a client who, you know, if he's not pulling his weight, I can go in at him and it gets him fired up. But if I did that to client B, it's going to push them away, and they're going to think, well, the coach isn't happy with me, he don't believe in me, I'm just going to blank him. You know, so you learn that balance, and that's why, you know, we have to, you know, just like you said at the start, you know, not sort of throwing the bus at them, understanding where they're at, meeting them there, and then obviously building them up from that point.
I think a large thing that goes unforeseen as like a really good coach is just a level of emotional intelligence. Like, as I said this with Harry in the last podcast, the training, the nutrition, that's the easy part, you know. Like, and again, clients don't think the accountability is going to be like one of the bigger areas of importance, but that's why I like the regular communication and the check-in process is, for me anyway, like the most important part of the program. Like, if you're not gonna log a few sessions but you're still completing them, that's fine. Like, as long as you're open and honest with me, I want to make sure that you're good to go, and you know, we can check in and make sure that you've got all the support you need.
And it's sort of helping them be vulnerable as well. You know, because we have clients who go through all sorts of stuff, and it's just, you know, getting them on additional calls to talk to them. Something that I like to do as well is, if they're going through something that I've potentially been through, like a breakup or a grievance or something,
give your own experience.
Talk about my own experience, you know. And some of my clients will say as well, I've got emotional on check-ins. Like, if I've been proud of them, if they've been getting emotional with me, it'll set me off, because they see I'm invested. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it's about. Is it's not just a simple, right, here's your diet, here's your training, you're good to go, let me know how you've got on. It's like, well, how are you feeling, bro? Is everything all right? How stressed are you? Do we need to make any changes next couple of weeks because of how busy your work schedule is? And a lot of coaches miss that out. And
sometimes even as well, it's like, I've just said to guys, even they might be on the cusp of finishing like a phase 1 when it gets really, really shitty and it gets really difficult. And I've just said, right, bro, we're gonna have a week off. We're just gonna sit back. If he is going through a breakup, if he's got something going on at home, and then he's booking him with our therapy team, I just say, right, you know, I don't want you to think about the program. You know, we'll still communicate, we'll still keep in touch. But then again, I think a lot of other coaches still have that black and white bodybuilder mindset of like checking in. Have you hit your steps? Have you hit your training? And then it's like, you're just focusing on really the simplistic shit.
Yeah.
Whereas I think as coaches for us, again, for guys that join Physique Academy, the people that the ideal candidate that we're looking for are people with that high level of emotional intelligence, that have got that relatability, that can empathize with people, but also keep someone in check at the same time, you know. Do you think, like, you know, going through your breakup and stuff and having that lack of support, going back to, you know, that sort of like that around that talk of negativity, do you think your mental health now is in like a much better place from that, and you've sort of overcome that, or do you still have like some PTSD? Because I've just sort of saying, bro, I've seen moments where that still comes back. You know, you've come out of that deficit, you've come out of that first phase one, you know, you've filled out a lot more, you're a lot fuller, you know, you're a lot happier in yourself, but there's still times when I've seen, maybe with it on meals out, where you don't still lack sometimes that confidence in yourself, or you might have a little bit more, being honest, anyway, a little bit more like insecurity, because your mind probably takes you back to that time from what those people have said. So what's like your approach to that now?
Yeah, so I'd definitely say I'm in a much better place. Still, you know, there's some weeks, some days where we all have stuff going on in life, but I'd say like my coping mechanisms are a lot better. I feel like, you know, like I have calls with Nicola, who's one of the mental health support team. Spoke to her about loads of different things. So, yeah, in certain social situations, you know, I don't know, sometimes I'll be okay, sometimes I'm not. It just ultimately depends on what it actually is in terms of the, you know, what is the social situation, what is the moment that's going on, how do I feel about myself. So, yeah, sometimes I'll still, you know, look at myself and put myself down, and in that situation, you know, if say for example, if I'm looking to approach a girl or something like that whilst we're out or something, I'll be like, yeah, and then all of a sudden something comes in my head, I'm like,
no, yeah,
which
is what I was referring to.
Yeah, because you still say that same guy, or, you know, she might look at you like that, even though I'm not, and that still sometimes comes over me. But I'd say that's probably the only area, because I'm confident with my coaching, I'm confident with like my training and stuff. So it's more just like the social aspects. Is, again, I feel like, you know, as you know, I feel like that's something that potentially will always be there. You know, with just confidence and stuff like that. Obviously, it's getting better and better, but I feel like that's obviously something that I'm just obviously learning to work with over time.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's important for us, for guys on the program, to have like that support from the mental health team. Just because, again, like I've had it with guys that have finished phase one that do still see themselves as that fat guy, and it is quite sad to see, to be honest, mate. And I think it ultimately comes down to that person's maybe like, again, PTSD, you know, with stuff that they've experienced in the past. Sort of going a little bit deeper with like my own experience, because it was my old man that got me into training it at such a young age, and I think I use a lot of trauma that sort of comes later on, like anxiety and stuff that I've experienced maybe from childhood. It seems to seep through in later years, and I talked about this on Instagram recently. I think my main goal for 2025 of this year is to really just try and live a little bit more presently, and just not let stuff in the shadows affect me in the present moment, and just sort of be a little bit more, like, have a little bit more gratitude, and express that, you know.
Yeah, and it's the same for me, you know, and people always ask, like, what is it that keeps you going? And it's the fear of going back to where I was, you know. And, you know, I've got also like the comparisons, still got all my starting photos, and I'll look at them and I'll think, right, you know, that's your motivation, that, like, you can't get back that way, you won't get back that way. I've got like tattoos with like the date that I started my transformation and stuff like that.
Have you got?
Yeah. So it's literally there.
Oh,
So
I've seen it. I didn't know. Yeah.
Somebody has to, so I know, you know, the 13th of July 2020. So I got that for that reason of, like, right, you know.
So yeah, so it's a reminder, literally embedded in your skin, bro. Because like then if you did return to that, you're gonna have this day.
I remember showing George, you put, "You mad guy."
Did you get that? Did you get that after you finished your phase one?
Yeah. I think I got that in like 2022.
Right. Okay. And shifting a little bit, bro, like to physique now, because the impact that you would have had, like going from being an accountant to fully online coach, like, was there anything that surprised you about sort of coming into this job role, do you think?
I'd say probably the main thing that surprised me is the enjoyment factor. You know, because obviously you see PTs in the gym putting stuff like that, and obviously, you know, going from an accountant, you know, just being in an office every day, staring at a computer, going to the factory to look at throughputs in terms of how long it's going to take us to make and the costings and all that sort of stuff. It's totally different, and obviously working at home each day or from abroad or wherever, and that I feel like, yeah, and what surprised me is the opportunities that it's given me as well. You know, in terms of like to travel
Freedom.
to Dubai for months on end, to go here, to go there, you know, to sort of create my own routine, you know, getting my own work done, but then training when I want to train and not having to sort of live to someone else's schedule. That's probably been the biggest surprise for me. And probably as well, I always knew the business was going to grow, but how much it's grew since, because when I was a client, I'm not sure how many clients they had, but as I said, they had 1,000 followers, and now they're on pretty much 100K, like, and then they're on, you know, what, nearly 900 clients, 1,000 clients.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like you say, within the space of 2 years, when I started, it was 8,000, I think. But
that's what I mean.
and which was still early on, but that was only 2 years ago. So it has had like a meteoric rise, hasn't it?
Yeah, we've got what, 25 coaches plus mental health support team, lead gen, sales. You know,
And why do you think the community aspect is like quite strong in the brand?
I think it's because everyone breathes the same breath, you know, and bleeds the same blood, is in terms of we all want the same thing. We're all passionate for results. We all care for what we do. You know, obviously having like George, for example, you know, again, because I was coached by him as well, I feel like that sort of helps me in terms of like the standard. So I feel like, you know, from the sort of the top down, there's good morale, essentially. You know, everyone gets on. We all do the same thing. We've obviously got the WhatsApp chat, the Discord. You know, all the clients are working together. We've got Terence as well with the client success, getting all the clients together, and I feel like that's obviously really trajected the business as well, and everyone's sort of integrated more. So I think it's because everyone wants the same result. Everyone wants to be successful as well. We all want to change lives, and we all obviously get a buzz off doing it as well.
And do you think like George's leadership has like influenced you quite a lot? Like, what's it like working with George?
Yeah,
like from being coached by him. As
yeah,
well?
I feel, yeah. I mean, because obviously when I was coached by him, it was a lot different. You know, so obviously being, you know, managed by him essentially and being my boss. So the relationship, you know, we do communicate quite a lot, but I wouldn't say as much because we communicated more when I was going through all the stuff with like my ex and stuff, and then throughout that, and obviously when I was big on like onboarding as a coach, he was talking me through it and stuff like that. So yeah, the way that he's like coached me and the way I've seen him sort of lead people has definitely influenced the way that I coach in terms of being approachable, but also having a no bullshit approach as well. You know, if you think that someone's lying to you, call them out, and if you're wrong, you apologise. But you do it for a reason, because at the end of the day, the clients are there, they're paying good money for the service. You know, you're there to provide a service, and if they're not getting the results, you know, you can push them and, you know, try and get through to them. It's up to them to listen, but if they don't, then that's on them. You know, and you've done your best in that position.
Yeah, and do you think like, you know, coming into the coaching position, is that like challenged your mindset or like enhanced it more so?
It's definitely enhanced it. It's definitely made me a lot more intellectual as a person.
Yeah.
Probably developed my social skills a lot better as well. Obviously chatting to clients every day, chatting to you guys, meeting up for meals, going on holidays together and stuff like that. Definitely, you know, enhanced my mindset. So I wouldn't really say, you know, it's affected me in any sort of negative way. You know, we have our stressful days, we have our busy days as always, but, you know, that's just part of life, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's something that you can sometimes find yourself troubled with is like a bit of like imposter syndrome as well.
Yeah.
Like, for example, even just for like stuff when, if you're like sick, like as a coach, I've had like a week off training, and then I get like in my own head like, what would I say to my clients, which I would tell them to rest and recover, but then I just sort of get myself in a bit of a tiffle having like this weird guilt trip because I'm having a week off because I'm off sick. Whereas like you do have that, like, because you obviously you've got to lead the pack in a way. Like George has to lead the coaches, we've got to lead our clients and set the example, and that can be quite difficult.
Well, it's like
to deal with.
I've had lots of time off over sort of the last 12 to 13 months, hospital visits, stuff like that. You know, we was both ill recently in December.
It's your fault that, bro. Your fault that, bro. It has to be. I was fine, and then the week after, I was fucked.
It was all ill. So yeah, I mean, even when I'm off, sometimes you do worry, and I think my, like, as you said, that like sort of like fear comes in and that anxiety. Because you feel like, how are the clients? Am I letting them down? Am I letting the team down? Am I letting George down? And
Yeah, well, you had a long time off, bro, didn't you? What was it? Was it like 3 months when you had your surgery?
off training. Yeah.
Off training, yeah. Sorry, I mean, I don't mean off work. Yeah, I mean off training.
Yeah, it was about 8 weeks total. About 8 weeks total, which was an absolute nightmare for me. Just going on short walks because that's all I could do at one point, and then just building that.
Well, again, going back to when you were like maybe a little bit on the more obsessive side with all that sort of stuff, maybe like more like diet, but like you were very obsessive, and then to just go in cold turkey, like getting back into it as well. That was a bit of a weird one, getting like your mind to muscle connection, your central nervous system back up.
Yeah. It's just, and again, it was the fear as well of like, am I going to cause more damage? I'm actually ready to go back into training. You know, I knew I was fine, but then there's that fear because obviously I had the surgery in November 2023 to have that loose skin removed, and then about 2 to 3 weeks later we was at the works do, weren't we? We did the Crystal Maze, then we went to Fazenda, and then it started bleeding. If you remember,
I remember very well, bro.
I kept going missing for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I was just putting new bandages on because I didn't want to go home. That's what it was.
We got to that point in the night where, like, you know, you're having a good time, but then something like that happens. You're like, I can't go home now. I've got to stay out.
I remember at Fazenda, they're like, "You all right?" I ringing Amos. I said, "Nah, just a bandage and some tape, we'll be fine." I said, "I think my dressing's just come loose." So my mum don't see that because she'll kill me. That happened, and then the next day I woke up, bed was just covered in blood. I was covered in blood. I'm like, right, something's definitely not right here. Peeled the dressing away, and you could just see blood seeping through the scar. So I thought, shit, it's opened up. So I went to A&E, was in there for like 20 odd hours. Anyway, they ended up keeping me in. What happened was I developed a hematoma, which is a big blood clot surrounding like my abdomen here, which is very common when you have like a big open procedure like that.
Yeah.
So had to then be rushed for like another emergency surgery where they cut me open to drain the hematoma and get rid of it. And then from then I was just in and out of hospital every other day. Well, I had to stay in the hospital for about a week to 10 days under review on like drips and stuff like that to make sure that nothing was wrong. And then after that they sent me home, but then every other day I had to go back for like a dressing change, a wound review, had like the I had like home visits and stuff like that as well. But from then on, and then obviously they give me like antibiotics and stuff like that, but they kept me on them for 6 weeks, which anyone who knows, you should be on them for 10 days, no more. And it was there was two, like there was metronidazole and something else really strong antibiotics. Taking them, and you know when you take like prescription tablets sometimes you get up the next day you feel hungover. That's what it was like. I had no energy, felt awful. And then as I recovered in the February, me and Tyler was going to Dubai. So I thought, right, I'm back in Dubai, I'm going to get back in. Obviously I was back training a little bit before that, but I thought back into a deficit, going to shred, get myself back in shape.
Yeah.
And then what happened was my body just wasn't responsive at all. So I was like, something's not right here. So I had some tests done, and because, bro, I was doing an hour and 20 minutes Stairmaster a day, 15,000 steps, my food went down to 1,600, and I'm like, this is more than I was doing on the shoot prep.
Steep, yeah.
You know what I mean? I was absolutely knackered every day, so had some tests done. Basically, your gut has bacteria, good and bad, and the antibiotics have basically wiped both good and bad bacteria from my gut because I'd had that much of the antibiotics for so long. So over that time, I then got with a new coach in the March or April of last year, still with him to this day, and he's helped me like, you know, with my gut health, you know, getting this drip, using these probiotics, eating this food. It took a long time to get my body right. And then
Does it still, from the surgery, does it, for the loose skin, does it still impact you at all now or not? Really, no?
What do you mean?
Like, have you still got like any things, like obviously not bleeding, but does it niggle you in any way?
No, it's completely fine.
Completely fine now.
Yeah, it's completely fine. I had to go hospital a few weeks back because I had an issue with my stomach, but not that stomach, but my internal stomach.
And what made you want to get like that surgery?
Yeah, again, this is a very common thing that I think some people can take value from, because what puts some people off losing weight, and I get messages like this all the time on Instagram, and you know, they say it on calls, I'm scared of having the loose skin. I'm like, well, would you rather be in the shape of your life, confident and happy, with a bit of loose skin, or would you rather be fat, overweight, and depressed? It's the trade-off's not even questionable. So, the reason I did it is it didn't really bother me, because you couldn't really see it unless like, because it could just used to sort of sit under my waistband of like my pants or my boxers, whatever, and you'd only really see it if I had my kit off, so very rare occasion. So what made me do it is what I thought, well, I want to compete, and I know that that'd affect sort of my look, and I thought, well, it's the final piece of the puzzle, really, you know. So that was the main reasoning behind it, was just to basically enhance my physique, to help me obviously when I do compete, you know, no other reason pretty much apart from that.
Right. And so it's mainly like for your bodybuilding show,
Yeah.
mainly, isn't it? Yeah. But also, obviously, it's going to help with your self-confidence as well. How much does a surgery like that cost?
I think it was around 5k.
5k, and you got it done in
Istanbul. Yeah.
Nice. I've been to Turkey when my mate was getting his teeth done, but that's the only time I've been.
Do you know what, there's a lot of stigma about them, but they are really good, man. That they're really helpful. They know what they're doing. They obviously do it day in, day out. And I researched for about 6 months before booking it, looking at loads of different places, having different consultations. Come across this place, and had a consultation with them, looked at all the reviews, feedback, and all that sort of stuff. And went there, just smooth process. Really
Were you in quite a lot of pain post surgery?
Yeah. I mean, it was weird because I just remember, and I've still got some videos on my phone, like when I was.
I remember it looked quite swollen. I remember seeing the photos and the videos.
So I just remember waking up back in the hospital bed, because you had your own little room in that hospital. And I woke up and I was like, what's going on here? And then I meant to move out of the bed, but I pulled something. And what it was a catheter. Which, you know, because
yeah.
And I was like, whoa, but obviously because they put me on like morphine and stuff like that, I was like looking at it, freaking out, rang the nurse, but I was like, get this out of me. So like, the surgeon has to come and review you. She needs to make sure you can walk to the toilet before she pulls it out.
Right.
And I was thinking, right, go and get her, I'll walk. And then when they went, I'm thinking, you better be able to walk now. So they helped me out of the bed. They went, right, they went, walk to that wall and back, we'll stand behind you. I went, I'll do one better, I'll walk to the reception and back. So I walked, I did it, and I was fine. Anyway, they pulled it out, which was probably the worst pain I've ever felt in my life.
It just doesn't sound pleasant, bro, I can't.
And then, it was painful after that, obviously the swelling, you know, you can't really bend and move, even coughing. You just get like you'd been shot if you coughed or sneezed. It was awful. And then the bruising and swelling then obviously moved, and then I think I've shown you the picture, haven't I? With, you know.
Yeah, you've shown me,
Yeah, you know, so it was painful, and then you just essentially you know, again, I use peptides to recover as well, which I've told a lot of people about, which did help my recovery quite, you know, drastically, and just keeping in that daily movement just helped me.
So no regrets.
No
regrets. Do you think for people that do lose a lot of weight and have loose skin, do you think it's something you'd recommend to them?
It depends your reasonings. It ultimately depends on your reasonings, because it is a massive thing.
Oh,
you know,
yeah. It's a big op.
It costs, again, it depends on where you get it done, but, you know, mine was 5k, you know, in the UK I was getting quoted 10 and 12k. So it ultimately depends, you know, if it's something that's genuinely going to make you happy and make a difference to your life, go for it. But if it doesn't really bother you that much, and there's no other reasons to really get it done, then just, a bit loose skin isn't really going to be the end of the world.
Yeah. And shifting a little bit, bro. So obviously you've achieved a lot now, not just with your fitness, your body composition, and with work. What's like your professional goals over the next few years now? I know obviously like with fitness, you know, the next big thing is the bodybuilding show, right? Which, you know, you'll be going through different stages of prep now for cut, bulk leading up to it. But professionally, like career wise or personally, like what is something that you really want to focus on now at this stage in your life? Or really like what for your goals, like when you first started, like say as a client at Physique, you know, to where your goals are now, just sort of reflecting on that a little bit.
Yeah, so the latter part in terms of like my goals, like I've obviously the initial goal that I set out on in just getting healthier and becoming a bit more food focused in terms of aware of what I'm eating and stuff like that. 100% achieved that. I achieved that quite soon, working with George. But in terms of like my goals now, obviously you mentioned there about the bodybuilding one being like the fitness side of things, but in terms of like personal and professional, personally, I want to move like abroad at some point in the next sort of 2 years. Dubai is on the cards. It's just a few logistics to essentially sort out, and the visa and all that sort of stuff you've got to sort out.
I mean, you'd be all right for tax over there.
Definitely. Moving abroad at some point is 100% on the cards, and then I'd say professionally is just to essentially just continue to excel, mate, and just work my way through the business. Taking opportunities when I can. In terms of like financials. Pushing towards that 5-figure month mark is something that I'd love to do in the next sort of 2 years. Definitely, would obviously change my life even more than it already has. So I'd say they're probably the big three things that I'm going to focus on in the next year or two.
Yeah, and there are different opportunities coming out of Physique now. Like we've got a new Inner Circle program, which is sort of in the works, isn't it? I think there's a few people starting to sign up for that, and that's where like you have like communication in a WhatsApp group chat with George, and then like meetings each week, but then like the coach also helps out and does like the coaching and check-in procedure and stuff as well, which I think is going to be a better incentive. But in terms of like Physique Academy, where do you see the business going over the next few years? Do you think? I know a big thing has always been for us to have 1,000 active 1,000 clients. Obviously, we've worked with thousands already, but have like active 1,000 people that are currently on the program.
I think judging obviously off the previous trajectory, of course, you're not always going to get years like that. Business comes in peaks and troughs, of course it does. But I think definitely in the next, say, 5 years, I reckon there's going to be probably close to, say, 100 coaches, I would say. I've had some good conversations with George about where he wants to take the business. I feel like at some point, there will be some sort of facility, like a hub. I feel like that's something he would definitely do, and he's interested in doing, which would be great to do. He did mention about Dubai, to have one in Dubai and then one in the UK and stuff like that. Again, whether that obviously it takes time on logistics, and then in terms of like with the business itself, I just feel like if we do continue to progress the way we are, we're just gonna be like a force to be reckoned with. We're already up there now, but I just feel like there's just going to be no comparison in the next 5 years if it carries on the way it does.
Yeah, and we've got like some applications open at the moment for a few positions, like sales rep. We've got lead gen, more online coaches. There's an incentive for guys who are part of the team at the moment to refer people that we think would be a good fit. Because again, like going back to what we were saying before, like not everyone is going to make it as a coach, especially at Physique Academy. Everyone has their own way, but we have our philosophy, values, approaches and like some people again might just not have like the emotional intelligence or energy, to work with the guys that we work with.
It's work rate as well, because becoming a coach with Physique, the onboarding process, learning the standards, learning what we do.
Especially now.
Yeah. And obviously we, and at the start as well, because we get a lot of consultation calls. So you could be fully booked up to 40, 50 clients within 6 to 8 weeks, doing multiple calls a day. For some people it's overwhelming, some people will enjoy that. So it's just being able to accept that it's going to be tough, But once, and obviously the coaches that I've worked with through the onboarding and the head coaching role and stuff like that, I've always said to them, you're gonna struggle for a good bit now, but as soon as you get fully booked, you will realise how much easier it is. And they've all said, I'm so glad I'm fully booked now, and it was worth the sacrifice.
And a lot of people, especially guys that are on the program that work with their coach, won't know that there are head coaches above the coaches. Obviously, you've got George, but then there's individual coaches that work with a head coach, which basically is just to oversee how they're actually doing the coach, looking over the check-ins, because obviously people have got to make sure we're doing our jobs correctly as well. And obviously you've worked with coaches in that role. How did you find that experience, working with?
Great, mate. Again, I just thought it was like another hands-on approach, just overseeing, making sure clients were getting a good experience, making sure coaches knew what to do because of you're going to come into some difficult situations with clients. There might be a bit of confrontation, they might be going through something, you might be a bit uncomfortable on how to handle it, and obviously as a head coach it's your responsibility to then advise and guide them on, right, well, this is what we should do, do this, or if you've not done something right, you can do this better. Looking over the check-ins, making sure the clients are getting that service that they're paying for, they're getting the results they're paying for. So for me, doing that, again, it was really good because I would also then potentially even learn from some of the coaches about different methods and different ways of communication. Felix, for example, one of the best communicators you'll come across, taught me a bit about communicating with clients and opening up and just stuff like that. So with that, you're giving your knowledge to the team, which is all going to benefit the business and you anyway. We're all going to grow together, but also then the clients are going to get a better experience. Everything's just going to then develop from there. So just having that sort of hands-on approach with that I really enjoyed that as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that again people don't realize that there's more than meets the eye. With there's so many different approaches and things to be thinking about when you coach an individual that it might only be like something small to them, but like for you it's a big approach or challenge or tackle that you're taking with that individual. But did you find it more pressurizing, more obviously, because you're going to be if you're in a higher role, there's naturally going to be more responsibility. If there's something does inevitably, potentially, because not everyone is perfect, you are going to have things that go wrong throughout the coaching process. Or if maybe a client just doesn't gel well with an individual coach, and there might be some negative feedback, but then ultimately it's going to land on the head coach, isn't it?
Yeah.
To deal with.
There's definitely a lot more pressure, but obviously that's going to come with the role.
Yeah.
The higher up it gets, there's more pressure. You think about the pressure on George. I mean, it's enormous. So, and obviously it's your role to oversee those coaches and their clients. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of pressure and stress when it comes to that sort of role.
Not really got too much else to go over, I think, bro. If I want to go over some advice for people listening to the podcast, though. So, for someone that is just starting their own fitness journey, especially if they feel stuck mentally, they've got those real difficulties with insecurity and body confidence. What's the biggest piece of advice for them to start shifting their mindset?
Biggest piece of advice is, and again, this comes from my experience and also off the back of the hundreds of consultation calls that I've done over the last 3 years, get a coach. Because the amount of people I've spoke to that have tried it themselves or are currently training themselves and they're not seeing the result, and it's just simply down to the knowledge. Whereas if you go to a coach who's got that knowledge, who's going to support you, who's going to guide you, yes, in terms of it's going to be a financial investment.
Yeah.
But in the long run, you're going to develop skills, knowledge, education, mindset, etc. that you can then take with you once you finish the program. So my advice is definitely speak to someone, maybe not even just like us or a coach, maybe someone who trains, have a word with them, see if they can give you some pointers. But when it comes to the accountability side, it's so much easier to lie to yourself and give yourself an excuse to not go to the gym or, oh, I've had a good week this week, I deserve that 5 guys, or it's all right, it's just this. But when you've got a coach, your mindset completely changes. Okay, it's not just yourself you answer to, it's them. When it comes to the check-in, we're like, well, you're telling me you've not had anything, but your weight's gone up by 1 kilo. but we did the same thing last week and we lost a kilo. So what's going on this week?
Yeah, I think this is such a huge thing, bro. Like, cause there's going to be something like if someone's checking overall looks perfect, right? Yeah, they've hit the steps, they've hit the cardio calories for the week. You know, they've hit all the training. They've not said they've had any off-plan socials. Well, you're not telling me something. And again, as a coach, like, or having a coach, that's why like just being open, honest, and trusting in that individual is so important.
It's trust and it's transparency. And I like when we do like the onboarding calls with guys, I say, look, I'm not the sort of coach who's going to shout at you. You know, if you've gone off plan, there's obviously a reason for it. So we'll have a conversation around it. I'll learn about it. If it's a trigger point for you that's gone and done that, again, the more we know about the client, the better. So and again, when clients aren't always going to be 100% open with struggles, it may take them a bit of time to do so. But the more we know, the better we can help you, the more we can do for you. When it comes to your check-ins, don't lie if you've had a bit of this and a bit of that. You know, if you've gone overboard one day, just tell us, we'll put it behind us. We get back on with the plan. It's as simple as that.
Was there any moment when you were a client where you might have told a little fib to George?
I'll be honest, no.
Never?
No, I'll be honest. I'll probably lied the opposite way.
Where
I didn't eat enough.
All right, fair enough.
Most likely.
Fair enough. But what's one thing like you think you wish you'd known when you'd first started? Now, if you were starting now, what's one thing that you'd wish that you would have known back?
Probably the balance aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% the balance aspect, because it did, get to me quite a lot where I was holding myself back in situations. So again, and George was trying to teach me that balance, but it was just my stubbornness being like, no, I need to lose this weight, I need to do this. So definitely the balance aspect, and also probably I wish I had done it sooner. But also, if I had done it sooner, would that have been with Physique, and would I be where I am now? So that's...
Yeah, the world works in mysterious ways, bro, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The universe has got its own plan for you. Like the butterfly effect. That is the butterfly effect, isn't it? Oh, that is right, isn't it? Butterfly effect. Your current training though now. So how many days are you training a week? Are you mainly bodybuilding training, right?
Yeah, mainly bodybuilding training, 5 days a week. Back and delts Tuesday, legs and arms Wednesday, push and arms Thursday. Upper on a Saturday and then legs on a Sunday.
Why? How come? What made you choose to do that sort of split? Are you doing your current programming yourself?
No.
No,
so I'm currently with a coach. Yeah.
Right.
So the one that I joined when I had all the gut health issues, I'm still working with him.
Right. Yeah.
So he set that split on in terms of like the areas that we want to bring up and stuff like that, and things we want to focus on improving. So yeah, that split was set by him, and then 5 days a week training, but daily cardio. At the moment, 30 minutes rest day. 30 minutes training day, 45 minutes rest day. 10k steps, food's at about 2.5k at the moment. So yeah,
food's at 2.5.
Yeah. So I'm as I'm recording this, I'm a week into the next deficit now, and I'm 1.6 kilos down. So we're going all right.
How many cardio calories are you tracking each week? Are you just doing it for 30-minute blocks? Time based.
But I'll always aim for 10 calories per minute minimum.
Yeah.
So just heart rate zones. Basically.
And rep ranges 8 to 12. You're doing is it just straight sets? Do you do in your current training any more advanced approaches or not?
Yeah. So people will obviously be used to starting off with your most amount of reps first. So maybe a set of 12, then a set of 7, then a set of 8 or something like that.
Yeah, pyramid increase.
Yeah. But with the way that I'm training now, is I'm doing my top set first. So obviously you'll warm up and then you'll do your top set first. So the reasoning for that is because you're fresher for that set. You can put more load, more volume, etc. in terms of tonnage across the session.
And sorry to interrupt, bro. You don't do any. You do a few compounds, or you don't do barbell bench? Do you do deadlift?
Deadlift, yeah.
But and you don't do barbell squats. More like pendulums, isn't it?
Pendulums and hacks, yeah. The reason I don't do barbell squat is basically just due to my hips.
Yeah.
I also I've had that issue with my knee that I did when I was doing all the running a couple of years ago. So I have to have something that's just a bit more sort of safe and isolated. Don't barbell bench, deads, are in there. Squats, pendulum and hack, they're in there.
Right, okay. Because I always say, for me personally, anyway, and what I sort of suggest to guys, again, for those first sets when you are fresher, compound movements when you're working multiple muscle groups over multiple joints, that's when you want to be hitting your heavier sets. And then later on in your sessions, that's when you can start to go into more like supersets. When you're doing like isolation movements and your accessories.
Yeah, that's it. And that's what it is. Obviously, so I'll do my big movements at the start of the session. Unlike, say, a chest day, I might do a bit of flies to start off with to get some blood in the chest and then go into a big press. But yeah, it's 8 to 12 and then say 12 to 15. And then if there is a third set, which is more for the isolation movements, it's say 12 plus. So it's just getting a bit more volume in there. So yeah, the top set first, maybe a back off and then back off again.
And what are your favourite exercises in the gym?
My favourite exercises in the gym, well, it's actually changed quite a bit. So I love a hack squat. I'll always love a hack squat. I do love a pendulum, but
legs your favourite day.
Yeah.
Legs favourite day, yeah.
Yeah, it has been for a while, to be fair. But I used to mainly when I was doing the shoot prep, because you know what it's like when you get towards the end of a deficit, you get a bit weak.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I hated push days. Hated it, but really, to be honest, I enjoy all my splits, to be honest. But my favourite movements, definitely like, say, an incline Smith press. Say it's one of my favourite movements.
Mm-hmm.
A hack squat, and then if there was one for back, you know me, I love like a bit of a single arm pull down.
Yeah, you do, don't you, bro? Yeah. With the handle sometimes as well. Attached.
That's it. So yeah, I'd say they're my top three. But if you are starting out training, don't worry too much about those little things. Get the basics right. Mm-hmm. Do your barbell rows, do your squats, do your deadlifts, do your bench presses.
Oh yeah,
build that.
A good program is one that you for one you enjoy. It's got your preferences in of what's available to you, what's realistic for you, but is also one that is just comprising of the fundamentals. Like you don't have to be doing super weird movements in the gym or using like Bosu balls and stuff all the time and just doing like weird stuff like. In order to see progress, it's literally just the simple movements.
You'll see people like just overcomplicating movements.
Doing like a curl, then into a lunge, and then into a press. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, you're going to be burning calories from that, but like, I mean, again, it depends on that individual's goal. If you're doing more of like a conditioning circuit, then fair enough. But if it is more like strength and hypertrophy that you're trying to achieve, doing super complex movements all together at once, it's not going to be effective whatsoever.
Yeah, a lot of it's fatigue management as well, because I'll have clients message saying, can I not train every day? Can I not do more sets? Can I not do more exercise? I'm like, well, you don't need to, mate.
Don't need to, yeah.
Because you're taking away from your recovery time, and the more, and I always explain it because when you train, your muscles are inflamed, they're torn down, etc. So if you're then doing that the next day, you're not even going to recover because the muscles are constantly inflamed. Yeah. And people wonder why, I train 6 days a week and I'm not making progress. Well, yeah, it's probably because of your diet, but also the fact that you're killing yourself in the gym and you're not recovering.
Yeah, the biggest case of overtraining for me personally was because like if we look at the maximum recoverable volume from like, I think it was reference I got is like Renaissance periodization, if you've heard of them.
Yeah.
It's like 16 to 20 sets, and I remember working it out a few years ago. I was doing like on chest 32 sets across the week. It's a lot of volume in it, and like that was a time when I was doing like 3 drop sets just on one exercise. Like I was doing a drop set, right, rest, 2 minutes, another drop set, and it's like I was just completely overtraining. I was doing more than I need to. And some people like they enjoy spending time in the gym, but then if you're spending like over an hour and a half, 2 hours of just pure resistance training, and obviously this is like when you are training with intent as well, you're following your rest periods, like you don't need to be training that amount of time. It is just a waste of time. You're not going to get any additional gains from that, and you're just going to be impacting your recovery.
Yeah, my sessions are about an hour. Legs probably a bit more due to the rest period being a bit longer, but yeah, an hour. That's
and a game changer for me as well was over the last few years. I've really been trying to perfect tempo.
That's it. Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter like how many reps you're doing per se, because any amount of reps you're still going to have some level of hypertrophy if you go into fatigue. But for me, just focusing on those negatives and just time under tension. A big one is like Mike Thurston. I think that's one of the reasons for his like rise on like YouTube and stuff, because he was like one of like the pioneers, I'd say, in like that YouTube scene that you could just really see he would just focus on time and attention, sacrifice. Like
that's it. That's all the muscle cares about is how much tension's being put.
If you want it to grow, if you want it to grow.
And that's why we do form reviews with clients. you know, and they'll send us videos. Some of them will rush reps, and you know they're bringing the bar down the dumbbell quick, and they're pushing like that. I'm like, well, slow it down, feel it, get that stretch, and then let's push back up. You know, work on that tempo, and that's it. It's, you know, perfecting the form. It doesn't matter how much weight you're moving. You know, you could do a 120 kilo squat versus an 80 kilo squat. But if you go 3 seconds down on that squat, holding the bottom for the 80, compared to a half rep on the 120, I can guarantee you'll feel like 80 kilo more.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%, bro. 100%. Whenever I've got guys to like do like 5 second negatives, if you're doing like a curl, for example, and you're focusing on, you know, that eccentric, like the feedback I get the following day and how they feel, it's fucking,
I can't walk.
yeah, and it's
my chest,
and it's literally like, and if even for like injury prevention as well,
That's
like
it.
so many people go, I've
Stress
got a
on the
niggle
joint,
here in my shoulder, my
joints.
rotator cuff, and then I'll be like, right, send me a video when you're next to your chest press. Not only the form might be okay, but like, boom, boom, it's like, because you're putting so much high impact on your joints.
That's it.
So yeah, that for me, that was a huge one over the last few years that I've been trying to. I feel like my progress is actually, I've got a lot stronger with my compounds, you know, and it's basically just been focusing on form and execution rather than trying to do more volume in like more amount of time per se. Right, mate. So, I mean, that's pretty much everything. We've had a good chat. I always like to, well, I say always, I've only done like one podcast with Harry, but I'm making it a thing just to do like a few quick fire questions at the end of like a podcast. Don't need to be like super in depth. You can go in depth if you want to, but it's just like a few additional things, you know, just to wrap up. All right. So if you weren't a coach, what would you be doing right now?
I'd probably still be working as an accountant.
Really? You think?
Yeah, either that or I would have probably approached my dad and would have been sort of transitioning to take over his businesses at the moment.
Right.
I'd say.
And what's your dad's business?
He does like property maintenance, like Manchester, Liverpool, and stuff.
All right. Okay. All right. Next one. Proudest moment so far in your fitness journey?
My proudest moment
Overall.
Again, there's probably a couple that spring to mind. The very first one, when I thought, wow, was when I did my very first half marathon. I set out to do a 5K that day as well, just a quick 5K. Got to 5K, I thought, carry on. Got to 10, carry on. Got to 15, I thought, oh, go on then, do a half mara.
Did you enjoy it?
What? The
running?
I used to love it, mate.
Did you?
I used to, Jordan will like sending videos running just at night and everything in the early morning. So yeah, the half marathon was probably one of the proudest moments. And then also, I would say, in terms of fitness, probably the photo shoot. Just seeing those photos, and I thought, that's me.
Yeah.
In a photo shoot, which is, you know.
I remember seeing it on Facebook, bro. It's wild.
Yeah. To some people, it's like, I was just on a photo shoot, but to me, it's like I've gone.
Oh yeah.
Obese.
Oh yeah,
A photo shoot with my top off in an open gym with people walking around. I was like, wow.
And if you think like to what your mindset would have been like, imagine if you were asked to do that, and it was when you were at previously, you know, for your body composition, like the anxiety and insecurity you would have felt. If you could listen to one song in the gym for the rest of your life, what would it be?
God, probably.
I feel like I know the answer to this one.
Do you reckon? Let's see if you get it right. I would probably say Slipknot Duality.
No, I was thinking of
Nico Day.
what's it called? I can't remember the name of it. Down with the Sickness.
Oh, Disturbed. Yeah, that's always on. But
Yeah, because I swear I've seen you comment something like that before.
Yeah, Disturbed, Down with Sickness. But I'd probably say Slipknot Duality. That's like a really good top set song.
Okay. Lovely jubbly. All right, and last thing, bro. What's the best thing about being part of Physique Academy?
As a coach or a client, or both?
Both.
As a client, you're obviously part of the biggest and fastest growing fitness brand in the industry. With the support you've got, the sort of coaches you've got, you know, the results that you will achieve if you follow the protocols that your coach gives you, you won't find that anywhere else. You've got the brotherhood, you know, everyone communicates, whereas with other coaches, their clients probably don't even know each other, probably don't even speak to each other, whereas all of ours integrate. That's how I've become good friends with Tyler, was through the coaching. And then as a coach, the best thing, I'll probably just say the community aspect for one, in terms of how we all are, because we've all got we're all individuals, but when we're together, for example, the Christmas do,
Team morale.
the team morale, it's normal, even though we don't see each other every single day. It's just like we've seen each other half an hour ago. Do you know what I mean? Just like coming here today was just normal. It weren't a bit weird, or anything like that. So yeah, that, and then also the opportunities that it will give you to travel, to work, to see the world. There's multiple of our coaches. Mikey's been in Japan, Thailand, Bali. Felix is in South Africa at the moment.
Again, freedom, isn't it?
And that's it. And where else will you find that? If you're stuck on a gym floor, you're not going to be able to get that, opportunity.
Yeah. As most of us figure when we first start out, you sort of have to earn your stripes, in a gym setting. But yeah, you don't. Then you realise now you don't want to fucking go back to it. Well, mate, cheers for coming on. I feel like these are really good to learn about you, because there's guys on the program, there's coaches that it might be more new that they don't know us. So it's really good to sort of talk about your own experience, what got you into Physique Academy, what's led you up to this point now, training, and again, because you've had such an inspiring story, mate. I feel like it's been good. All right. So thanks for coming on, bro. Thank you very much. Let us know in the comments or send me an Instagram DM of who you would like to come on next from Physique or elsewhere. And I appreciate everyone's time for listening and watching, and catch you later. Bye. All right, bro.
Sweet. Yeah, man.